Here's a collection of some of the materials that I use for my mosaic pieces. Now, of course, that's dependent on whether it's inside or outside, because you don't want to use the wrong materials for outside, because after spending so much time on a mosaic, you may find that the materials might fade, you might find they'll deteriorate over time. So it's always good to know the materials and the environment on where they're going, so as you can choose what's best and will last the longest. Now, of course, that's different to inside, because inside is a lot more forgiving, so you can pretty well use anything inside. But of course, then you have to contend with the direct sun. Obviously, through a window with direct sun, some things will fade. So you just have to be a little bit careful on knowing your materials. So now we'll go through a few of them just to give you some. Those of you who collect vintage crockery will know that that's a Royal Albert. Beautiful pattern. Also the plate, that's a lovely pattern. Those two came from an op shop or a thrift store. And when you go shopping at a thrift store, just make sure that you just don't buy anything because you think you might use it in the future. It's best to buy for a project that you know you're going to use it in, or if it's something that's very unusual, you would buy it, because otherwise you'll end up with all this stock. Even though it's cheap, it won't matter because it's still money that you've spent. So you don't want to end up with all this stock and then find that 6 months or 12 months down the road, you go, oh, I don't want to use crockery anymore. I want to use stained glass and some other materials. Or I don't like how these plates cut, because different plates will cut differently to other plates. So it's just better if you choose what you want and you know you're going to use it, rather than what you think you want and you don't use it. Now, I hope that makes sense. Now, the other thing too is that Millefiori is absolutely stunning. That's a beautiful glass, and that's all handmade. It is very expensive, but it's quite versatile as a product. It's really good to use. Seed beads, I buy these by the hanks, and this is a very small hank. And I like these hanks better than the loose beads because A, it's easy to store and they're a lot more controllable than the loose beads. So that's something for you to look at. You may hear that terminology, hank, and that's what it is. That's a hank of small seed beads. Glass iridized gems are also a wonderful add to your mosaic, and they're quite versatile. Square glass pieces are also really good to use. Roses, flowers. These I broke off from a table centerpiece. So when you're at the thrift stores, keep your eye out on centerpieces where they have lots of roses and flowers around them. They are really good to use, but you just have to break them up. And some of the older pieces are a lot easier to break up than the newer ones. But they come in a lot of different colors when you see them out and about. And they're usually quite cheap too. You know, for a centerpiece, you could be looking at $2 or $5. Stained glass comes in a lot of different colors and shades. That's a very versatile product as well. Glass gems come in lots of different sizes and shapes. Very handy. Ball chain, also very handy if you're outlining letters and things like that. It's become very popular over the last 12 months to 2 years. Tiles, handy to use. Jewelry, if you're going to mixed media mosaics, this is really a good product to use, but of course, you just make sure that you use it for inside, not outside. Now, these are imitation stones. These are vintage, and these date round about the 1930s, 1950s, somewhere in there. Quite expensive to buy these days, but really very, very nice. And as you can see, the sparkle effect on them is wonderful. Now, if you're starting mosaics and you're on a tight budget, you can always pick up things for free. Such as if you live near a beach, you can pick up glass, beach glass, you can pick up shells. There's so many things around the beach that you can pick up, or even if you go for a walk somewhere and you just have to keep an eye out what is around you, because once you start in mosaics, you tend to look at things from a different light. You'll find that if you let your friends know and your relatives know and your family know that you're into mosaics, they'll give you their broken crockery. They'll give you other broken pieces as well. So you don't have to spend a lot of money if you're on a tight budget. You can really make mosaics out of pretty well anything. Jewelry, I use these type of things. I just cut the end off the circle off the end there, and I use those. You know, lots of different jewelry pieces you can use. I buy these new. Also these ceramics. I made these and I made them because I wanted to add some different things into my mosaics, and this is where making your own tessera comes in really handy. If you haven't got a kiln, you can take classes, and that's how I learnt to make these. I took classes, and I decided that I would make all different ones because I know I'm going to use them, and I have used them in different pieces already. So they're really, really a great idea to make your own pieces. If you're using things like polymer clay, just remember that that's also good to use, but polymer clay does not last outside all that well. Fine for inside polymer clay. Ceramics, fine for outside if they're high-fired. Now the other thing that's a very popular material is vitreous tiles, which is what these are. Now the only thing with, and these come in different sizes and different colours. Now what I tend to find when I'm buying these, I only buy the ones that are very, very smooth. And the reason being is that there are vitreous tiles that have pits in them. Now the problem with pits is that when you grout, the pits in the vitreous tiles fill up with grout. Now you can clean it out, and it's an absolute pain in my opinion. So I avoid it, and I buy vitreous tiles that are smooth. Now if you want that effect of grout in your pits on the tiles, that's fine. No issue with that, because everyone likes different things, and probably it could be quite an effect in the pieces, but I don't want grouts in my pieces, so I tend to only buy the smooth ones, and these can come iridized as well. So they're quite a versatile product, not very expensive, but really good to use. Mirror tile. Now mirror tiles, you can purchase half rounds or squares, or you can even purchase them in different colors. But mirror tile is great to use. You just have to make sure that when you use mirror tile, because of the reflective backing, you have to make sure that you use a neutral curing adhesive. If not, and you use just any adhesive that's not neutral curing, what you can end up with further down the track is black spots over your glass. You may have seen that on very old mirrors, and that is because the adhesive that you've used starts eating away at the back. So if you're going to use mirror tile, use a neutral curing adhesive, something like a neutral curing silicone. Now, not all silicones are neutral curing, so just make sure that if you're using silicone, it states that on there. A lot of the glaziers use a neutral curing silicone to adhere mirror to a wall. Don't risk it, just use a neutral curing adhesive and then you won't have any trouble. Buttons are also good to use, and generally these are quite inexpensive. Well, in saying that, there are certain buttons which aren't inexpensive and quite expensive by today's standards. But you can pick up some inexpensive buttons without a problem. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, have a look at the other ones in the series Starting in Mosaics. Thank you for watching.